Good evening. Welcome you to the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees Business Meeting. We are here at the Administration Building. It's Tuesday, March 10th. It's 6:30 p.m. And we have a couple of students from Everton, Emma Jennings and Logan Wolf, who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I was going to say that the kids can stay standing because now we're going to introduce Everton. And Brian, you want to tell us what we're about to see or hear?
Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the great things happening at Everton. I promise I'll keep it under an hour. Tonight, I'm going to share with you some of the things that we're doing instructionally, some of the things that have been part of our efforts this school year, and some of the opportunities that we're giving kids academically. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is our instructional vision. About 3 years ago, our corporation embarked on the Marzano Framework for High Reliability Schools. And during that first year, the Everton staff, we sat down and we wanted to focus on that second level of the framework, which is effective teaching in the classroom. So in doing that, we developed an instructional vision, and each school did that. At Everton, what we do is we look at this quite often, and we look to see if there's anything that we need to revise, if there's anything that we need to take out, anything new that we need to add. In deciding what is it that we want to include in good instruction. And we've listed all of those components in our vision. Now, the hard part was defining that, because each component could mean something to anybody else. So we as a staff had different ideas of what things were. And on the back, I gave you an example of how we defined each of these. I used collaboration. What we did is we defined it as a team and we agreed upon it. After that, we said, what does this look like in the classroom? What are we going to see in the classroom with this? So there are examples listed that you have of what we're going to see in our instructional vision for that component. With that, what we do each year is each of the staff members, we look at each of the components and figure out which one do we really want to work on for this school year. And each of the staff members chooses their own component to set a goal for. And during the year, we meet, we talk about it. What are the steps you're taking to meet your goal? And then after that, we celebrate. So we have teachers who, by January, they may meet their goal. They choose another one. So this is something that we use to push ourselves to be better for kids. Now, along with this, one of our other efforts this year has been to create a love of reading in the classrooms. This came about last year when we had teachers saying, I'm not seeing kids reading independently. They don't seem to be enjoying reading. All I hear them doing is talking about video games and texting. So we put some things in place, and one of the first things that we did last year was we got this book. It's called The Book Whisperer. And as a staff, we started reading this. And I sent it home. Some of them came in over summer to get a copy and start in on it. I started getting emails from my teachers. Where has this book been? I've needed this forever. So it's something that we've gleaned from and put some strategies in place. And Cindy, I think you've got a PowerPoint ready for me, and one of the things that we have done with this is, one, we wanted to put a book in kids' hands. So with that, each quarter, we choose books for our kids. Like the first quarter was a mystery book. Now, of course, kindergarten and sixth grade aren't going to read the same book. So each grade level chose a different mystery. And then at the end of the quarter, the kids got together in the gym. We had an assembly, and they shared that book. And each time we've done this, it's grown, and great things are happening. But one of the things that we saw in the Book Whisperer, was, we need to set an example. So over fall break, back that far in the first quarter, where our teachers were, wherever they were on fall break, they started taking pictures of themselves reading. And we presented that to our students at the assembly. It caught on. So this is some of what you see. Here you see Mrs. Matthews at home with her favorite chair. So, you can see in the background what our teachers, where they were, how they are celebrating reading, even in Disney World. On college campuses, at the beach. So you can see them at home and at Kings Island. So our teachers kind of set the example with, hey, it's okay to read. Reading is cool. You can do it anytime. And then with the sharing, it got to the point where this last quarter, even our kindergarten were getting up and they were excited about what they were reading and able to share with the rest of the school. So we've got kindergartners who are standing up in front of the whole school talking about what they read. And it kept going. And here's our fifth grade. They read James and the Giant Peach. So they dressed as some of the characters and started sharing. And those who still like the technology component, they incorporated it with their sharing. The whole idea, keep reading. So that was how we're trying to push that reading a little bit. Along with that, some of our teachers have set goals of so many books to read with kids. And we're going to have to change it up a little bit next year because we already had kids who've met their goals. So that's a good thing to have. So we're really like seeing reading happening. Then the last thing I want to share is about our other academic opportunities that we offer kids. It doesn't have to take place just during our school hours. We have literacy, math, and science nights that focus on some of the STEM skills. We've had science fair. Even Leslie helped us out with our science fair as a judge this year. With our science fair, we had 2 students then who decided to go on to the regional science fair. And then from there, we had a student at the regional science fair who won the Air Force Engineering Award. So we're seeing great opportunities for our kids. Here lately, right now going on, we have a math team. And our math team will be going to Math Bowl competition in April. And I've invited Mrs. Matthews and her team, and some of her team backed out on us, but we have a couple of good members here with Logan Wolf and Emma Jennings. They're going to talk a little bit about Science Bowl. This year, Everton came in 8th in our school category throughout the state. It is the 3rd year in a row that our science team has been in the top 10 in their category. So we're very proud of their efforts there. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Matthews.
I'll be really short, I promise. Just a little bit of information about Science Bowl. Jennifer Cooley and I have been the advisors for Science Bowl for about 6 years now. It's something that I just love, and if you When I was in high school, science was probably one of my least favorite subjects. So now I love it, and Science Bowl was a part of that. The standards for Science Bowl every year, it's one standard, but it's 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, and the majority of the questions are 7th and 8th grade skills. And we have 4th, 5th, and 6th graders on our team. This year we had 8, and 2 of them were 6th graders. The rest of them are made up of 4th and 5th graders. So they did really, really well, considering how hard it was. Would one of you like to share what our skill was this year?
So this year, we focused on cells of the body, cells of plants, and basically learning about organelles in the cells, and just basically what makes up our body.
And there's a lot of organelles that they had to know what their function was. So Mrs. Cooley and I are like, how are we going to get these kids to know this? Because it's hard if you've ever studied cells. It's kind of complex. So we looked and looked online, and we found this activity that said, try to get them to relate each organelle to something in their town or something ordinary household that they might remember. So we have these little cards. Okay, show them down. And can you explain that one to them?
So the McDonald's symbol stands for the mitochondria, and the mitochondria produces energy for the cell in order to function properly.
Awesome.
And so why did you guys choose McDonald's?
Because McDonald's gives people energy.
Can you explain yours?
This one? This one they put vacuum because it was vacuums and it means stores food and water. And then the vacuum it stores stuff.
And the last one, if you can see this, is barbecue spare ribs. Okay? Logan, would you like to explain how we made the connection there with that one?
So the ribs would stand for the ribosomes, because basically you get protein from your meats, and I mean ribosomes starts with ribs, and ribosomes you get your protein from, so why not?
And we probably had 14 or 15, and the kids as a group all came up with ideas and the reasonings why, so it was really a lot of fun this year. Science Bowl works a little bit different than Math Bowl and Spell Bowl in the past. We don't have to leave the school. So it's always the end of January, and we meet in either my classroom or the computer lab, and we put the questions up on the screen. And as a group, they have to decide on the answers, and they have to come to an agreement. And sometimes there's a lot of debate going back and forth, isn't there, Logan? About the right answer to choose. So not only are they learning science skills, they're learning social skills on how to debate and give their opinion and why they think their answer should be correct. So our goal is always to be in the top 10. And they've done really well. The highest we've got is 3rd place a couple years ago. So super proud of them. And if you have any questions for them, I'll just turn it over to you guys.
Is it live? Is the Science Bowl live, or?
It's on for 3 days. They put it up 3 days, so you can do it any of those 3 days if you feel like you're not ready on the first day. And I think they just do that for schools depending on their different schedules around the state.
Right, right.
I think you're a teacher in the making.
Which one?
You should come back and teach science for us.
Taking a doctor or something.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you want
You
a
did a great
science
job with
teacher.
cells. I
You want
taught
science
cells in 8th grade. You did an awesome job.
Yeah.
That's
Explaining.
cool.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay, well, that was delightful. We enjoyed hearing from everybody. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
Madam President.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Same sign. Nay. Thank you. Passes. Patron comments on agenda items. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from executive session 2/11/2020, the regular business meeting of 2/11/2020, and the board work session of 2/24/2020, and the executive session of 2/24/2020. The personnel report, retirements, resignations, leaves of absences, etc. The approval of the February 2020 claims 55809 to 56069, and a donation of $1,200 from the Fayette County Drug Coalition for the CMS Red Ribbon Week. So I'd like to seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the action items. Personnel report, Mr. Hensley.
Thank you, Board. I'm going to see if the Everton students have their internships lined out for the summer. They can come and work for me this summer. Pretty short. So, just a quick personnel report this evening. So, for classified staff, we have Aaliyah Bannon, developmental pre-K educational assistant at Maplewood. And for extracurricular, we have Michael Brock as the Connersville Middle School softball coach, and Morgan Hamilton as the Connersville Middle School assistant track coach.
All right, thank you. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the personnel report.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item up, the approval of the 2020 capital project quotes. Ms. Helen Pollock.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. This evening, we have a couple of items for your consideration. The first one has long been on our list. Mr. Dungan and Mr. Hensley have worked with Brian's class to come up with a proposal to have passive security at the Career Center. This is our last site that does not have passive security. Brian's class proposal is the only one we received at $22,900. We did have $30,000 budgeted for this project, so it is coming in at less than that. I do want to denote on here that because Brian's class is a small business, Mr. French has asked that we pay 50% of the project within 20 days. That makes me uncomfortable because we are not to pay in advance. However, I do understand that he has to pay for his supplies. So that is a part of this. We're asking for your approval to pay for that before the work is actually completed as per his quote. The additional item for your consideration this evening is interior drywall and the acoustical ceiling in what will be the new CHS offices adjacent to the Spartan Activity Center. This was also included in the capital projects or the finishing in total of that area. McCool Plaster and Drywall was the successful quoter, lowest quoter at $28,500 for the project. McCool has done work for the Spartan Activity Center, and additionally, they did the work in the CMS auditorium last summer. So we've had a good working relationship with them. Mr. Collins, Mr. Hensley, and myself went through the list of capital projects that were approved last Friday, and in an effort to try and build back up our operations fund, we may put some of those projects that were identified in that plan on hold for the whole year, or at least until later in the year, to address what our needs really were. Some examples of that are some cabinetry that we had about $100,000 built in for cabinetry. We're just kind of gonna hit the pause on that for right now. Boiler, chillers, so we did have $103,000 worth of damage at the high school due to the power outage. The insurance covers $93,000 of that, so we do have $10,000 that we are responsible for locally. We did not have a lot of money built in for emergency in our capital projects. So, we'll use that, but we may have to divert money from some of those others later in the year to cover that $10,000 that's our deductible. So that's capital projects, couple of items, and some additional information.
Okay. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the capital project quotes.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? Is it typical to not get the full amount when it
Yeah,
was?
there's a deductible.
Oh, the deductible was 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
It used to be 5, and I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. They just said they weren't gonna write it for that.
Okay.
So
It'd
we
be
had
nice
to
if Duke
increase
were,
that
would
to
pay our
10.
deductible, but
Yeah, that's not gonna
that's
happen.
not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Since it
they
was there,
hit a
yeah.
power line here, and Brian arm wrestled them for 8 months trying to get them to pay for the damage that was done from that.
And that
Duke's
didn't-
not paying for anything, so.
And they considered that a catastrophic failure, for the insurance company did for our boilers. I mean, you get into 6 figures, they sent a forensic scientist in to look to make sure, like all the back feeds and everything. So it was pretty big, pretty big issue, so.
Okay, now that we've had the motions, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the recommendation to repurpose Maplewood Elementary to an early childhood center. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. In your packets, I included a memo with, it's really a recap of what's been shared in previous meetings and with various communications with you, but I think at this point, I'm ready to make that recommendation to you. The factors that have influenced this, one is our early childhood program is growing tremendously, and I'm a firm believer, and I know our team is, that we invest in them when they're young, and we'll see those dividends, and I'm confident we are seeing those already. And then the other is facing the declining enrollment and just trying to balance our building size and provide the programs and opportunities is also a key factor. So there's 2 different pieces to this. The first I'm asking is the board's permission to begin the process of repurposing Maplewood into the Little Spartans preschool. And then the next recommendation I'll make ties into giving us a go-ahead to redistrict and redraw our boundary maps for K-6 so we can start that work and hopefully have that approved by you before the school year is out so we can get communication out there and keep our parents informed. So this is my first request, the repurposing of Maplewood into the Little Spartans preschool. So do I have any questions or feedback on that before?
As I understand it, this is not going to require much reconfiguration or things done to the physical plant to accommodate this.
No, we'll need to do some new signage out front,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. But the classrooms, they have the bathrooms in them. We may add a second developmental preschool classroom, so we'll work through that. But our costs should be minimal with updating because the building's in good repair, in good shape. So, yeah. A lot of it will be manpower of moving people and, with
Yeah.
our staff, our
But we
maintenance
don't-
staff.
As I recall, we chose Maplewood because the physical plant there was much more conducive to
Of our 6, yes.
what we were required to have for a preschool program.
Right. And there will be no staff terminated or loss of jobs because of this. I just want to reiterate that again. So we will find a home for all of our Maplewood staff in a like position.
Great. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the repurposing of Maplewood Elementary to the early childhood Little Spartans?
Little Spartans preschool.
Little Spartans preschool.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the recommendation to redistrict the elementary school boundaries. Mr. Collins.
Second memo that I provided discusses, the loss of, now we're about 430 K-6 students over the last, since 2011, when we last redistricted. So our goals for this would be better balancing of class sizes across our elementary schools, providing additional staffing resources at the 5 remaining schools. The needs of our kids will continue to increase, especially that social-emotional learning piece. So we have to be able to support our teachers in the classroom and our students as well with the needs of the kids and provide the academic support as well. And then also maintaining a strong financial position. That's another purpose in this. And something, our goal is to keep the movement of students with redistricting to a minimum. We don't know what that will look like yet, but certainly the goal would be to keep, in a 10 to 12% range, if at all possible, of families impacted across the district. So when we can, we want to keep kids in their school they're in now, but certainly it will take some movement of some students to try to balance our buildings. So we'll work on that starting this week, if this is approved, so.
And you didn't mention it out loud, but in the memo it says that you'll present these boundaries to us at the May 12th school board meeting, so
Yeah.
that's when they'll be.
Thank you. Yeah, that was in the timeline I had shared previously, so our goal would be to have these boundaries approved by you, so we can communicate that out to our families before the end of the school or early June. So by June, people know where their kids are gonna be, and we're gonna plan some visits by the kids too, and coordinate, if a child's moving to Everton, we'll take the kids going to Everton, take them out there to meet with Mr. Jennings and his staff before school's out. And I think that was done when Orange and Alpina was closed, so we'll follow a similar practice with that too, just so kids are acclimated and get to meet their principal and key staff, so thanks.
Great. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to redistrict the elementary school boundaries for the 2021 school year. 2020, 2021. I was trying to shorten it, but that doesn't work anymore. Yeah. Seeking a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now the approval of the revised 2020-2021 school calendar, Mr. Collins. I gotta say it
Did you say
another
that
time
again?
too. No, I get to say it the next time too, so.
So, as you recall, we approve our calendars out in advance, so our calendar committee is made up of Mark as our representative for the board, and then we have administrators, teachers, and parents on that committee with me, and some other classified staff as well, building secretaries, educational assistant. And when we looked at the calendar for next school year, the 2020-2021 calendar, Mark, I think, was in that meeting last year, and I was willing to try the 3-day Thanksgiving break for this school year to see how it went. And then we did not include that Wednesday as the day off on this calendar for next year. So I shared that information with the committee, and really our attendance was pretty good. Our staff attendance was actually better the week of Thanksgiving than it had been in the previous 2 years. And our student attendance was a little higher, most significantly at the secondary level, but it wasn't anything that was too far out there, I didn't think. So I did take that committee recommendation to go ahead and add November 25th, that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, as a no-school day for students and staff. And then to do that, we had to find a day in the second semester to make up that day. So what we're going to do here is we added a day back on the original calendar. We have Good Friday, April 2nd off as a no-student day, but we had also penciled in April 5th as a snow makeup day. So the committee recommended we just take that day off, and it's a regular student day. And then we will just make that day up at the end of the year and the last week of May if we need more snow makeup days. So those are the changes to that calendar. So we're really just adding the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and then removing April 5th as a snow makeup day. So it'll be a regular student day. So that's the first calendar that I'm seeking your approval on, that revision for the 2020-2021 calendar.
And the committee was pretty much unanimous on
Right.
adding that day.
Yes.
Good. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the 2020-2021 calendar.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. In a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now we move on to the 2021-2022 school calendar.
Easier, isn't it?
Little better.
And
I could have just said 21-22. No,
Right.
that would have sounded like we're way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, so,
Anyway,
and one of the things, the formatting of the calendar is different. Tried to freshen that up and make it a little easier to follow. So committee seemed to like the format, so appreciate Cindy for helping get that formatted. As you look through the cycles, and we pulled the calendars from 10, 12 years ago, you have those times when the dates start falling not perfectly on the calendar. So for example, our start time, we had some people on our committee who would like to have pushed our start time to the second week of August. Because, students would start August 4th with what we're proposing to you. But when we look at balancing semesters and when you look at the finals schedule and all those other pieces that help guide this, it really makes it tough to move it much later with the way these dates fall. So we're starting with August 2nd and 3rd for the teacher work days, and then August 4th would be the student first day on a Wednesday.
This does not conflict with the Fayette County Free Fair?
No.
Okay. Just double checking on that one, because that is an absolute,
Yeah, I think we have out 2 more years. I think we asked for 3 years in advance last year, so I'm pretty positive. You make me worry now.
No, it's not.
But I'm pretty sure we checked that a couple
well,
times.
it's just that the fair typically goes into,
It's on here.
is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's there, good.
Okay.
All right, I didn't see it up there.
I didn't see it either, sorry.
The fair dictates our school schedule a little bit.
It doesn't go into August.
That's unusual.
And this is one of those weird days. So when we look at the rest of the schedule, the calendar, of course, we have the October 11th Conference Professional Development Day. That's been pretty standard here for a few years, which would be a no-student day. And then the last full week of October is fall break. And then November, we are going ahead and proposing the 3-day Thanksgiving break on the 24th through the 26th. And then one thing that came up in our discussion, when we look at December, the draft calendar that we put together for the committee had school continuing through Monday and Tuesday, the 20th and 21st of December. And then what it would do is split up 2 different weeks, and so that was just following suit with what was done the last time these dates fell as they did. So the committee provided some really good feedback, and so what we decided as a committee, and I supported, was making the last 2 weeks basically of December, the holiday break, and then on January 3rd, which is a Monday, that would be a teacher day only. So everyone would get a 2-week break. It's just people will be able to take off on Friday the 17th after school's out and go back, the kids will go back on January 4th. So it's 1 extra day for kids, but felt that was a nice compromise. And we were still able to keep our balance of first semester and second because we're starting a little earlier in August, so it worked out well with that.
That also helps with teachers finalizing grades from first semester by giving them a teacher day on Monday in January.
So what we'll do is, we typically have February as a professional development day, so we'll split that day and work with principals on some professional development and some teacher work time as well.
Well, and they'll have 2 full weeks off at Christmas,
Right.
which will be really, really good for a lot of people.
We have 1 snow makeup day built into the school year during the term, and that would be February 21st, which is President's Day. And then the last full week of March is March 21st to the 25th. That would be spring break. And that's as outlined in our guidelines, is what we do. And then April 15th would be Good Friday, so that would be a no-school day. And then our last student day at this point would be on May 20th, which is pretty early. And then the last teacher day would be Monday, May 23rd. But we also have 4 days of snow makeup days that week if we need them. So that was sort of the advice of the committee, is adding our snow makeup days on at the end of the year, and I'm fine with that. So this works out well with this year's calendar, or the 21-22 calendar to do that. And then graduation would be June 5th.
So we still have the extra time at the end
Right.
just for graduation.
Even if we went an extra week, we'd still
We still have-
have over a week.
Yeah.
So that is the 21-22 calendar for your consideration. And if these are approved, then we'll get these out to our Career Center, sending schools that feed into our Career Center, and we'll post them on our website this week and get those out so they're communicated.
Sounds good. All right. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the 2021-2022 school calendar.
Madam President, I second.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move on to the Head Start orientation and approval of Head Start grant and budget and the self-assessment and goals. Mrs. McCullum.
I don't know if I can be as entertaining as Everton's little scientists. They were very good.
You just followed school calendar though, so you can be my.
Yeah, you'll be more entertaining with the calendar.
So the first part is our Head Start orientation. As our school board and our grantee, you're also considered the governing body for Head Start in addition to our policy council. If you have been on school board in the past, you're probably familiar with this little spiel, but please bear with me. Head Start is a federal program initiated in the 1960s as part of President Johnson's War on Poverty and operated under a federal grant. The original purpose of the program was to prepare children living in poverty for school. Today, this preparation includes academic, social, and health readiness, as well as parent education and engagement. Fayette County School Corporation is the grantee for the Head Start program in Fayette County. The Fayette County School Board is the governing board for the local program and has the responsibility for ensuring compliance with federal laws and regulations, understanding the philosophy and the role of parents in the policy council, being fiscally and legally accountable for overseeing and administering the program, ensuring that internal controls are in place to safeguard federal funds, reviewing and improving all major agency policies, including self-assessment, financial audits, and the Head Start grant process, and carrying out our grant provisions. Fayette County School Corporation Head Start is governed by the policies and procedures of Fayette County Schools and federal Head Start performance standards. This shared governance between Fayette County Schools and Head Start's Policy Council, which is a group composed of Head Start parents and community representatives, provides the program's framework, including the assignment of all program responsibilities and the development and review of policies and procedures. Specifically, Head Start Policy Council must be consulted and approve planning procedures, including all funding applications, amendments, and the annual program self-assessment, and general administration of the program, including procedures for shared decision-making and resolving internal disputes. Locally, the Head Start program serves all of Fayette County with 6 Head Start classrooms at elementary buildings. In partnership with CFSS, which is our special ed department, approximately 35 to 40 additional children with special needs are also served in our classrooms annually. Does anyone have any questions about your orientation? Next portion is our self-assessment. So throughout the grant writing process, we began a self-assessment, which is a lot of meetings about different areas in the program. These meetings include different stakeholders within the community, within the program, parents of students in our program, and staff members from Head Start. The leadership team identified the timeline and developed the committees, so we chose which stakeholders and which community members would benefit from meeting and discussing the topics that make up our program. Throughout our self-assessment, which takes about a month and a half to have all those meetings and compile all that data, a few findings to improve our program occurred. One of those was that we feel the need to move 3 of our classrooms to full day classrooms. We currently have 6 dual session classrooms. Next year we want to put 3 of our classrooms as full day Head Start classrooms and keep the other 3 as half day classrooms. To do this within the performance standards, we have to ask for an enrollment reduction with our grant to be able to meet ratio within those classrooms and keep staff that we currently have. So as I'm writing the narrative, we do what's called the change of scope, and we have to justify why we feel that's important. All of the data that we accumulated within our self-assessment and community assessment shows the need to have some full-day options for our most at-risk population. The number of DCS referrals within our community, providing a safe place to keep kids. It would go from 3.5-hour sessions to 7-hour sessions. Parents who are seeking employment would be able to seek employment that lasts longer than 3.5 hours. Parents that are working 3rd shift would have time to sleep and their children would be safe because they would be in a quality program being supervised. So lots of data supports having those 3-day classrooms. In order to do that, we do have to reduce by 24 Head Start funded slots. Those 24 slots would be filled within our other preschool programs that we offer. And within doing this, we are asking our
regional office to allow us to keep the same funding. And then we also provide a justification for why we would need the same amount of money to fund 24 less slots. And so all of that with moving to the full day, providing some additional trauma-informed care and resources through our mental health component that was also identified in our self-assessment. So that's all in the long narrative that I submit with the grant. So self-assessment, does anyone have any questions about self-assessment? I need to get approval on self-assessment before I move into the budget, if we can do that.
So in terms, was that separate?
I think it's all one.
It's all considered one here, but you need us
If you
to
could, just so the
approve
minutes
the
reflect it.
self-assessment. Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Head Start self-assessment and goals? Or yes, and goals.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carried.
Okay, thank you. So moving on into our budget. I have lots of papers up here. So our Head Start grant and budget will be submitted to the Head Start Regional Office by April 1st. This is the first step in the approval, and then the same information also goes to our Policy Council because they are also the governing board for Head Start. Our Head Start program can apply for a total of $1,163,679 in federal funds, which includes the $18,937 for training and technical assistance. We are required to provide approximately $295,654 in matching non-federal share funds, which are our community contributions to our program, including volunteerism or any donations made within our grantee. So our grantee, which is the school corporation, is our lifesaver. They provide so many opportunities for our programs to be housed within our elementary buildings as far as maintenance, utilities, transportation costs, which we know are abundant. So we are definitely thankful for the opportunity to have Head Start within our buildings. We are seeking funding to serve 138 eligible children, and by eligible, that would mean the children that fall within that funding category to be serviced in our Head Start program, so they would meet the poverty guidelines. We will continue to serve some children whose family income is below the 130% poverty level and ensure that eligible children enroll first. We will serve these children in a center-based program using the double half-day program design in 3 classrooms and the full-day program design in 3 classrooms. The benefits of that, when our current program, we have 6 classrooms with half-day sessions, students are getting about 448 hours for the whole year they're here, coming 4 days a week, half-day. When we move to the full-day classrooms, those 3-day full-day classrooms can come Monday through Friday for 7 hours each day, and that's a total of 1,120 hours a school year. So throughout the performance standards, the 4-day rooms are required to come only 128 days per year, which is significantly less than a normal school calendar for K through 12. And the full day are required to come 160 days a year, so they get more days, more time within our program so we can build on those skills, and especially the school readiness skills. So and all of that was identified in our community and self-assessment. We will continue to partner with special services to provide programming for up to an additional 30 special needs preschoolers in our classrooms. So in addition to our Head Start funded students, we also serve 30 additional students who are funded by CF Special Services. And those would be the children that didn't qualify based off of income, but that might have an IEP and need that service. Every 5 years, a community assessment must be completed to accompany the grant. In 2018, the community assessment was completed in the first year of the 5-year grant. This year, it was revisited to ensure the data still supported our program needs and the need for full-day services in 3 of our classrooms. Fayette County is still a county still challenged with a declining population, and we have a poverty rate of 22% for our children 0 to 5 in our community. All of this supports the need for the 3 full-day classrooms and the 3 half-day classrooms. We are asking for our funding to remain intact And we're justifying that by having those 3 full-day classrooms. And now that our rooms will all be at Maplewood, we will have some additional transportation coming from further out in the county into a centralized location. So we're justifying it to be able to keep our money, but also provide more quality service for our children while they're there. So, does anyone have any questions about the budget?
Do you have any concerns you won't get funded for the full day, or?
I do not. After talking with regional, lots of discussions have gone on, and the justification process is called a change of scope, has some pretty detailed questions we're answering and data that is supporting what we're doing. So if we look at number of children per session, it's based off of ratio for age. So within our full day classrooms, we can have up to 20 children and still keep the same number of staff. We wouldn't be having that midday bus route, so those staff members wouldn't be leaving the room and causing us to be out of ratio. The half-day classrooms can have up to 13 in each one, and then with additional staff, because we'll have those additional 30 to 35 kids from special services. So some of them could be a little bit higher in the half-day sessions.
So by not having 30, is it like 30 or 20 some extra students,
Mm-hmm.
it's 162 to 138, is it hard to fill those spots? If it isn't hard to fill those spots when you were just doing half-day, well, those kids that you identify, can they go into our preschools then?
So recruitment efforts have always been part of Head Start. It's just a requirement to constantly be recruiting for children. Before I came into this position, there was a wait list of 30 to 40 children some years. And then as we've added the title preschool and as children's needs have become greater and they're fitting into the developmental preschool, and our declining population in our community, our wait list is maybe at 3 at the most for Head Start. And when we do have a wait list, I try to find a spot for those children within existing programs so they're not just sitting out there. So I'm confident that we'll still recruit the way we always do because we want to find as many kids as possible. I don't feel we'll have problems finding children or keeping a waiting list if we do have a waiting list with the addition of hopefully the new developmental preschool classroom, and between our 3 title classrooms, we have spots. So.
The Title I classrooms were really a game changer for our kids, and then with the developmental preschool as well, so.
And being able to oversee all of the programs, I can ensure that the Head Start funded slots stay filled. That's a requirement of their performance standards. Every month, if those slots are not filled, we could lose funding. So we're weekly meeting as a team, a leadership team, to see which children we may need to move to different funding sources to be able to end verifying income, and that's all part of the process.
Do you lose very many kids from moving, like during the
Not
year?
necessarily from moving, more from DCS placement or removal. But we also have an influx of children coming in who are in foster care. So DCS is a partner of the program, and we're developing that a little bit greater, so they are referring children to our program, and we get them in immediately from our priority points. They get a spot no matter what.
Okay.
So and they are not based off of income. It's just based off of the fact that they're in foster care and need to be in preschool.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions about the budget?
Is that the,
That is it.
that's the rest of your,
A motion to approve the budget. please.
okay, oh, just the budget now,
Yeah.
okay. I wonder if we should have divided this up, just make it clear. All right, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Head Start budget. Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for dealing with the government.
That's part of us.
Jumping through the hoops. Okay. We will now move on to discussion items. The elementary CMS, CHS, WCC discipline plans, bus conduct, FCS code conduct, Ms. Corsaro.
Thank you, President Jacobs. In your package, you will find the student handbooks for all of these schools. Right now, it's just for you to preview. They're also being previewed by our school attorney.
There aren't a lot of changes in any of the books. One thing that we did add across the board was the Raptor system, which we talked about earlier in the year, that we would be requiring any visitors coming to the school to have an ID to place in the Raptor system to get that pre-printed ID. So it's familiar with parents. We've already communicated that with parents. We just wanted to get that in written form into our books. I know Randy's here and Steve is here. And elementary's here, so if you have any questions for them based on their student handbooks, if not, I'll be bringing this back to you next month for the approval.
Randy, I was just looking through here to see if there was anything new with vaping. We're just handling that the way we've always handled smoking?
Yes.
We put that in last year, we put that in last year.
Okay, thank you.
We changed board policy last year to match with.
Right.
Mark, there may be something in ours about.
Okay, well, I haven't got there yet.
Well, that may go back to high school about being the ability to test vapes for THC, that's new language.
Right,
that's in
yeah.
ours.
We have
So
that in the
that's-
high school.
Yeah, I
too.
saw
Yeah,
that
it's
in
in
there.
high school.
So just, that's one.
Thanks.
Can I just ask what's the issue? Is there a lot, I don't know where Randy's head is, but I can't see him back there. There he is, he's hiding. I just assume there's a big vaping problem, but I don't really know.
You know, for many years, we had cigarette butts in every toilet and every urinal, and it disappeared for 15 or 20 years. When the vaping started becoming popular, we started having some problems with kids. They were readily available to the kids. It was hard to detect. And so, yes, it is a problem. And it's a very expensive problem if the kids get caught, and they are getting caught. It's a $160 ticket, it's a 3-day suspension, and they lose their devices.
Thank you.
Also, and just something that the high school added, you might take a reflection on page 20 and 21 there, where they added the SRE piece this year.
And
That's
we're
some new
look-
language.
And we're looking at the grades too. for
Yeah, the
that,
grades,
To
and we're-
determine if we're gonna make any adjustments. for you.
Yeah,
That was a pilot more this year to see how that went.
It's going well though, right?
For what we're hearing, yeah.
only thing we've talked about, and I know Randy and I have had this conversation, I know he's had this conversation with his staff, is since this was a pilot year, the first year, we set that bar pretty low at that D- range, but as we continue to see more and more success with the program, Randy and I both have that conversation of next year, do we want to kind of raise that bar a little bit more and maybe move that percentage up to maybe like a 68%. So I know he's had some conversation with the staff, so that could, I don't think we have a specific
It says D- or.
D- F, so we might put D or F in there, we might take that minus out, just because we don't wanna stay status quo, we always wanna continue to push our kids to do better and better and increase that rigor. And so, with the first year of not knowing really how many kids we would have in some of these classes, we wanted to make sure that we could accommodate them, and I think Randy and his staff has done an excellent job. I know I was over there Thursday, and the English and math classes that I visited were full, and the kids were doing, working independently with some of the teachers and with each other in some groups, so, but it's still something that we want to continue to visit to make sure that we're continuing to raise that bar for our kiddos. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, we'll move on now to performance services updates on our solar and mechanical projects. Mr. Hensley.
Thank you. A little bit change of plans tonight, so Nick Allen, who is our representative from Performance Services, he is out traveling. And Bruce Thompson was going to present the mechanical data, and Bruce is out with some health issues, so. So I'm going to present a little bit on the mechanical portion of it, and then Ryan Stout is going to present on the solar portion of it. These first couple slides, I'm going to skip through. This is just Performance Services introducing ourselves a little bit, so we all know who they are by now. Let's see. How do I move? How do I make it move?
Left click.
Left. Other side. I think it's the left. I
Right.
think it's the other side.
Hmm?
The other side of the mouse, isn't it?
Just roll it then, roll it.
Here you go.
This
It's not moving. Here, I'll just walk over here. No biggie.
Sorry.
I'll sit here.
I was gonna say, we had it going, didn't we?
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
There we go. All right, so if you recall, we did a large boiler and chiller project at the Connersville Middle School. Replaced all the boilers, and then the picture on the bottom right is the chillers. They used to be over to the north of that in basically a concrete cave, and they couldn't breathe at all. And so the efficiency just wasn't there. So this project was to install new boilers, install new chillers, and get them in an area where they would breathe more, and also install all new building controls. So you can see, you know, this with performance services, one of the good things about them is that it's a guaranteed energy savings. So if you look down at the bottom in the light green, the 1 year total, this was the guaranteed energy savings that they said, yes, you're going to save this much money in year one. If you look up above that, that's our actual savings. So we've surpassed their guarantee by almost $8,000 just in the first year. And again, that's the cumulative calculated savings. Okay. Next illustration shows the improvement in the British thermal units, the BTUs. So that's how much gas we're using. Where before, you look at September 14 to August 15, we were at almost 127,000 BTUs. And you look at October 18, 19, we're down to just over 103,000 British thermal units. And to kind of equate that, that's approximately 40 homes is the amount of gas that we save, so operating 40 homes. So, and this is, so the best part about this whole project is, so how does it affect the checkbook? So if you look down at the bottom, this is straight off energy bills. We've decreased by, thank you, Vanna. We've decreased by almost $47,000 savings just directly off of our energy bills since we've did the project. So, and there it is, the 39 homes basically just in the BTUs that we've saved in gas over the year. So just some things that we're doing as a corporation. Performance Services is currently, we're having them do an energy audit for us. So they come in and kind of identify where can we continue to save more money. You know, one of those things is obviously our building controls. You know, so maybe bumping those thermostats up to 74 in the summer and 70 in the winter. So those are things that we're looking at. We're working with Performance Services because we always want to be, you know, trying to save money. Obviously, we want people to be comfortable, but we want to be cognizant of our spending as well. So this is just a little last one out. Turn out the light. So just simple things we can do to try and save money. So now I want to jump to the next. This is just again some information about Performance Services. We're going to move into the solar application. I'll let Ryan take over from there.
Okay. Thank you. So on the first slide, I think, there should be one underneath there. There you go. Just kind of a quick overview. It's just under a 1.3 megawatt system. We max out the 1 megawatt AC for the net metering. It's 3,500 solar panels out there and 30 Solar Edge inverters. And if you remember right from, you know, when we were looking at the system and kind of deciding what would be the most optimal system, we went to Solar Edge inverters. So we have just over 1,200, 1,700 optimizers on each of the panels. So it's a little bit more higher performing system, but that kind of runs into, if you want to click on the next slide, some challenges too. So we actually, our solar annual savings report won't be out until October, but we want to kind of just attach an update with the mechanical project. So as you can see there, through March, April, May, it's when we you know, kind of put the system on. It goes through that commissioning process. We had an unusually high number of optimizers that were failures right out of the box. So that's why you see those lower numbers, you know, and really those got installed and updated in June. So you see your numbers kind of moving back up there. This is, you can see, okay, well, why is it in the 80s and 90s? We want to exceed it. 2019 was the worst year we had for solar. So we had the empirical data, we had 56% of the average clear sunny days in 2019. So, you know, we typically design from a conservative approach that our system should be about 80%, you know, less, but when you're dealing with, you know, these kind of sunny days, it kind of makes it hard. But the positive of that is you're not in the 50s, from your numbers. So you can see as that from the optimization side. And then through June, July, August, we just continue to monitor it through the commissioning process. And I think we didn't even final bill until like October. So we just wanted to make sure that the system was running optimally, and then we'll see in October we'll be catching up and be able to present the details and all the savings numbers and whatnot. So again, this is just kind of a high level just update on the solar. It is producing great and working on schedule now. So. And if anyone had any questions.
I just want to note that you can see there, so as far as the estimated savings goes, now we don't have that full year of information to compare. But just as an estimate, we're looking at close to $137,000 in savings so far off the solar field. And to kind of maybe quantify that a little bit, so when you think about your money sitting in a bank drawing interest, we're definitely making more money off of the solar investment than we would just that money sitting in a bank drawing 3% interest somewhere. So that's one thing that to keep in mind. So, but in October, I'm looking forward to having that full year of data, and we can present the actual numbers.
So can I ask, the predicted kilowatts compared to the actual, that was what you felt, given the panels and the optimizers and what typical weather conditions are, that's what we should have.
Right, and you're going to have, each year you can have shifts typically up to 10%. But literally 2018 was 42%, 2019 was 56% of clear sunny days. So now they kind of classify it in 3 different categories: full clear days, partly cloudy days, and then cloudy days. So we had just more partly cloudy days, which affects the weather and the production. So
We would have been a lot closer had the optimizer issue not been there.
Right.
The first 3 months would
Yeah,
have
you
been
see that.
significant.
yeah, if you look at just after those first 3 months, your averages would be in the 90s.
So why, this is an ignorant question, why do you say a full year from October, from when the optimizers were fully working?
Well, optimizers were in and through this kind of commissioning process, just making sure that they're running right. So we didn't really want to, obviously do our final billing until we were assured that, and typically we like to have 3 months of data, of solid data once they're up and running. So, and making sure, because if you're going to have issues, you're typically going to see them out of the box or within the first, 6 months. So.
So we're almost 200,000 with those 2 project savings over the last 12 months, which,
That's a big thing.
I'm glad to have this information, because this is one question that I do get from our constituents.
Right.
How we doing with the solar savings? That's what I hear.
Right.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I look forward to this year to see how we do with this spring and summer and fall with everything full, running at full efficiency now and installed. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, January was really cloudy, but look at that. That's, I'm surprised, because January was never ending. It was like,
sunshine.
Sunday.
yeah, that's good to see.
But their projections are lower in those months that are more normally
Right, and we
cloudy,
were
so.
close.
Yeah.
I mean, February not as much, but
Yeah.
yeah, we were still close, so that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll see you again in
Sounds
October
great.
then
Thank
to
you.
get a full
Thanks,
report,
Ryan.
which I
Thank
think
you.
would come
Thank
over.
All right, well, that's good to have.
That is in the spring, we have monsoons.
All right, next up, information regarding the criminal justice program at WCC. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Collins, Cabinet, members of the board. I was just lectured about not using a PowerPoint by Sonny, so it's my fault. I'm just not in the PowerPoint mood tonight. We'll try to get through this, make this painful.
Make it painful.
Make it painful.
Thank you.
No, I'll try to be brief. It's exciting times right now for what we've got going on. We're in a state of downtrodden enrollments and things and all the negativity. We're actually trying to grow our programs, and I think that's really exciting. I would say if you look at charter schools, probably 51 to 52 career centers and career programs running around the state. I would say we're one of a handful that's adding at this point. So I should say looking to add. How's that sound? If you look at the first sheet there on the top, you will see we're proposing adding a criminal justice program to our curriculum offerings. One of the things that I feel very passionate about that we have missed out on for a long time is public service. aspects, whether it's EMS, fire, criminal justice, things of that nature. A lot of people are pushing EMS. EMS is very difficult. Students struggle probably less than 50% to pass the certifications on that. It's a very difficult test, and there's a lot of burnout in that career, believe it or not. Most people who are EMTs do not pursue being paramedics because of the burnout and the stress that goes along with that. And if you've been reading the politics of the emergency medical business here lately, it doesn't sound good long-term for people to go into that because of the problems with the billing and the cycling going through. So I'm sure Chris and Dennis are very excited to see this, being former law enforcement. I know Dennis has 25 positions that they're adding in our region. That's exciting. When we started talking about this, we looked at those areas. We did a needs survey with our freshmen and sophomores and even junior students because as you'll notice in that, right now we have 44 prospective enrollments for next year. These are applications in hand. Our applications are due Friday the 13th of this week. Great day. So in the application process though, we have these physically in hand. We requested those as they came through because we're looking at program adoption versus, retention and recruiting for just a normal program. Lots of split. 15 females is very exciting.
That is very.
That's great. That's great. We've been very conscious on how we've marketed this program. We've done target marketing, sent flyers and postcards to individuals' homes to market this. If we're going to launch it, we need to fully invest in it. A mailing for us cost us about $500. By the time you throw in postage and we do all the printing in-house at 8 cents a copy, we're not outsourcing that, which saves us a ton of money. If we get one student, we recoup that money time after time again. So it's been.
How do you target who you send it
We
to?
get addresses. We do mail merge addressing from our 6 sending schools, and we go out.
Like all sophomore, junior, senior
All
student
that we
families?
did, yeah. And we sent those out to schools across our regions, and we try to be creative. Whether you want to believe it or not, we compete for students. And that's something we do not ever want to be a detriment to the enrollment of our sending schools, but we also want to make sure that we have enough there to be financially solvent on our own too, and at a good cost for them. So
Steve, one thing I asked Steve Monday, I think, or I can't remember. Sometimes kids may have an interest in 2 programs like precision machining and welding, but so I asked him how many of these 44 are interested in another option if they don't get into the program, and I forget.
very few. We have one that put a second choice on an application.
So these are new students
Yeah,
who
these
may
are
not
new
traditionally
students.
go.
We're not, most of these students are not duplicates of any of the ones, or we're not pulling of the ones you see. I know at one time we had one individual who was interested in switching from auto tech. Is that correct, Sonny?
There are 2.
2 that were interested. One of them has decided against that. So we're not really robbing Peter to pay Paul here, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not gonna give you an enrollment projection as far as a number. I anticipate our numbers being up and up significantly. So that tells me that these are new students in that process. When you look at this, we have 1 sophomore, we have 32 juniors that are interested, and we have 11 seniors. The beauty of that is 33 of those students will come back for year 2.
Yeah.
So the program is now sustainable in that first year. And that's what I think is important. Half-day position, you limit your applications because of student scheduling. Maybe, do you offer in the AM or do you offer in the PM? Well, singleton classes for kids who need a specific class at their high school may not be available in the afternoon, but when that program is, so you can eliminate. So it's a shell game. You have to really, juggle things around and make solid decisions. Student tuition, we just use $4,000 as a general benchmark. We've been $3,800 once, we've been $3,900, we've been $4,100. It depends on the year, it depends on the solar panels. We can only run so many extension cords to get our energy costs down. But in all honesty, it really does depend on the year. I mean, some years our heating cost is probably not going to be very exorbitant this year. Whereas some years it's been really cold. So there's a lot that factors into that. Retirements, the severance aspect and things there. So we use $4,000. We anticipate with 44 enrollments, $176,000 in student tuition that's generated by this program. If you look at an instructor's salary, and we just threw a general number out at $45,000, and I think that's a fair assessment from an individual coming out of a career that's got some experience. With salary fringe all in, we're gonna say $75,000. I think that's a very solid number based on what we've done in past practice and hiring. Would you agree, Mr. Collins? Sound fairly accurate. Overall tuition reduction would be $101,000. So what that means is with the surplus of monies, now there's some operating cost with all of our programs. You're burning $1 a welding rod. Every time that kid goes out there and just blows through that welding rod, it's just like throwing $1 down a drain. That's not the case with this program. We don't have a lot of expendable income in this. We have some training devices that are permanent. They are not something that, you're consuming. You're gonna have general classroom consumption. What that means though with that $101,000, that money stays in our general fund. We take that $101,000, that's surplus money, and it's split out amongst every head in our entire enrollment. So the ramifications on Connersville and Fayette County this year, that will be a reduction in $191 per student in tuition costs. To give you a scope at 239 students, that would save Fayette County Schools $45,900 this year. That's a teacher salary. So it's one of those, you spend money to make money, and in our business, that's kind of what it is. So the beauty is you're providing something that kids are passionate about. It's a great opportunity for the students to learn something. And, it also, if you look at page 2, I think something that's really important, we've been, in the last 2 weeks, we've had a visit from SEL, who does early college accreditation, and we've had them in-house. We're trying to become the 5th early college career center in the state of Indiana. I like our chances. I'm not getting my hopes up. Mr. Judd had a conversation with the lady from who visited and said they had a great day. Mr. Collins was in that meeting and Mrs. Casaro, and I think that went well. If you notice, there are dual credits associated with this program. We're looking at partnering with Vincennes. It's strictly a business decision. Business in the context of if we can get enough programs where we have MOUs in place with Vincennes, we're looking at a possibility of $300,000 to $500,000 in equipment they may be able to turn into our facilities. And that might not just be for this. That could be a good example. Heartland Career Center got 4 full-size semis donated by Vincennes for student lab work. So we're playing the business game. And I like doing that. I kind of like dealing with people on that side of things. I'm not as good as JD, not even close, but what we will look at in this is there's going to be 4 dual credit classes that are offered that year. There's 5 total through Vincennes, as you can see on the top under those. Criteria for dual credit: bachelor's degree, individual that qualifies with industry experience. That bachelor's degree is a huge component. The nice thing, and I forwarded this on to Mr. Collins earlier this week, and he was curious if we could get this. Ron Hogue, if you don't know who Ron is, Ron's the godfather of CTE in the state of Indiana, maybe even one of them in the nation. Ben Davis is director for 40-some years. He is the one who does all the Vincennes partnerships for early college for career centers. He has pretty much said that if we can get the right individual in with the right credentials, they will support us with a $60,000 simulator that officers can come in and train, students can train on, and it's a Virtua 300 is what it actually is. If you want to YouTube that and look, I'm going to tell you it's the real deal. It's scenario based. It has a computer that operates it. You can set up scenarios based on how students respond to people. It's not all about the criminal justice, lock them up, throw them away type business. We're going to look at adding dispatch certification. We're going to look at adding the jailer certification. You cannot be a police officer until you're 21. You can be a jailer at 18. Jailers are making anywhere between $35,000 and $40,000 depending on where you're going. That's a great way to get your foot in the door to become a deputy. Obviously the academy factors into all of that. We're going to look into the cyber aspect. We're going to look into forensics. We're going to try to make this a great, well-rounded program for these students going forward. We talk about the 3 E's: employability, enlistment, and enrollment in college. Well, you're gonna hit all these kids, because if you're enlisting in the military, this program goes hand in hand with military-based kids. Whether they go as an MP or whether they're going into infantry, it helps them. The dual credits also help with rank. So this goes a long way in that. So this is a different kid than what we've got in our building right now, and I'm confident in that. You will see behind that, you will see our proposed job description. I know this has not been approved, but I don't have a lot of time to sit around, and I got lots going on. Moving parts, right? Targets. So we wanted to get this done. Obviously, the consideration this is up to you, and from that point, it will then go to our governing board of our other five, Scott's other five colleagues on our governing board that will represent the Career Center. I know that if you look at the enrollment, you have, Lincoln does not have apps in yet. That does not mean they don't have any. So right now, we're 44 without Lincoln High School's applications. And that's where we stand at this point.
Is there a certain number you're gonna limit to the class?
Well-
Oh, okay.
You're putting me on the spot.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you had so many, if there's gonna be like an interview process, something like that.
We
because I know
try to
Cosmetology-
make sure we accommodate every student that we
Okay,
can,
good.
within reason. We have a massive, I will say this, we have a massive welding problem for next year right now. And we'll work on those things. If we were gonna start eliminating students, they would be sophomores first, because sophomores can come back as juniors and seniors. So that would be where we would start. Then typically from there, if we're in 2-year cycles, good example, cosmetology is a great example. You can't bring in a senior because they can't get their cos finished. If you have room, it's one thing for them to get started, but you don't want to eliminate somebody that can get that 2-year window to get that done. I was figuring it up today. If you figure 20,000 for cosmetology school with our projected enrollment next year, it's $1.2 million in tuition. If you went to school, that's a lot of money. So
Steve, what's the current CTE funding per hour for the law enforcement?
400 and 600, 400 year one, 600 year two. I believe that's subject to
Per hour?
change. Per hour, so it'd be 1,218. High wage.
They're always subject to change.
Well,
but I
it
was
changed as of last
curious.
Friday. They met with the DWD again last Friday, and I believe there's more changes coming with Beth Megashar. That's what I was told. We'll talk about that next week at our directors meeting.
Yeah, this year was hard for
So,
us.
yes, sir.
This next year.
Steve, I love the bullet points, and you answered my question because I take it that the cyber investigations are under the forensics, but if this would ever be changed, I would suggest to put that as a bulletin, as a bullet point, just cyber crimes. Everything from white collar, identity theft, exploitation, that covers a lot of, and I know that some would see that, the cyber angle.
Typically, I've been on the other side of the law, but we will be sure.
And maybe Chris wants to apply
We'll
for
put those-
that
I was gonna
job.
say, Chris and Dennis, I think they're sharpening up their pencils here.
I
working
know.
on a resume.
Advisors with this.
Yeah, hey, and that is something you need to keep in, we have advisory committees, and you two would be great individuals to help us get that off the ground, absolutely.
But how much is the cyber part? I mean, you were with the state police for a year.
I'm looking at
The
these
cyber part.
salaries, yeah.
No, I mean, but the
Cyber.
cyber part, how much is that? I mean, how big is the state police cyber unit or department now?
It's the biggest growing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we had a student, one of Terry's, that's what his goal is, to get in working for corporations that, I forget what he called it.
Industrial salaries.
Something about like, you're like a penetration specialist in that you're penetrating systems and firewalls to see where corporations are vulnerable. And your job is to go through and make those vulnerabilities known to the tech teams, and they're going through and making their firewalls stronger so that they can't be hacked. That's what his goal is, which that goes right along with what Chris is talking about. He's an IT student this year, so CHS student too.
Steve, do you foresee any problems with staffing this program? What are the criteria that you're going to look for instructors in this program?
Kid-based, kid-centered. Then we'll look at credentialing as far as education. We'll look at work experience. I mean, it's, I don't know, Anna, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the perfect recipe is. I don't know if it's one part this, one part that. I just know those are the three considerations. The big thing I'm after is people that are like-minded, like the staff we have now, that are there for kids.
Yeah.
That's number one. If you're there, I don't care if you're the world's greatest police officer, if you can't relate to a kid, you're of no help
Seen that.
to where we're after.
Just a suggestion, there are a lot of law students residing in Indianapolis that are kind of disillusioned, shall we say, with the practice of law as it is traditionally done and are much more community-minded. And this might be a recruiting thing even for an advisors through IU Law.
I would be shocked if we have less than 10 applicants.
Okay, good.
And the reason I say that is I've already had 2 people contact me and the job's not even posted and they're nobody I've ever even heard of in my life.
Wow.
I mean, there's people I know that are interested in the area, I'm sure, but these are people that none of us know that are coming
Yeah,
from.
because IU Law has a really, they're working on getting a good pro bono program that covers a lot of these kinds of issues. And some of them are, one of my former students is an attorney, I'm not sure if this is exactly what I want to do, and this would be a perfect kind of outlet for at least in some respects, for someone that wanted to do something like that.
The trick to this is making it rigorous and that's making it viable. Can the kids take a stackable credential from this program and go somewhere with it, and that's the key. You know, Sonny said that Ivy Tech may be interested in partnering with us on the criminal justice. Well, I'm fine with that, but if I've got someone that's willing to pump a bunch of money into a career center that's better for kids, I'm gonna give them some precedent.
Sure.
Especially if it's equally
Yeah.
good for the students.
And does Vincennes offer criminal justice?
Absolutely,
track
they
in
offer
their-
a bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Right, so that's a good
That's
school
one of the,
to
and
pair with.
Vincennes traditionally has been a criminal justice school for a long, long time.
We have alumni from Connersville High School that have gone through that program in Vincennes.
Yeah, that I don't know. There you
But
go.
one thing that, just to reiterate though, is to get into that dual credit piece and to possibly get that simulator thing, we are gonna be looking for a 4-year bachelor's degree with experience in, I mean, that, if you ask me, without speaking for Steve, finding someone that we can cover that dual credit's huge too. We don't know who will apply that might have that 4-year degree, but if you can find somebody in the field, don't you think, I mean, as we
Oh,
talk
I
to
think
the board.
I think that's imperative.
Yeah.
I do, I think it gives anyone that applies with a bachelor's degree a huge leg up. I mean, it really, that's not the excluding factor or the including factor in that job, but it gives people a leg up in that position to start out, especially on paper.
To follow up on that, Steve, I think with the many facets of this program, as I'm seeing it, and I think it's a wonderful idea, but I think finding the right instructor with the right experience that's gonna tap into all of these areas is gonna be critical. So I hope we have 100 applicants.
The one thing we stress is professional development with our staff. And whether it's bringing in outside people to help with instruction, we do a lot of that. We have a lot of, we have just had Reed Hospital and do stop the bleed training for all of our first year kids last week. That's a huge skill. To stop the bleed is a huge thing right now, no matter what capacity, if it's in a factory, if it's in a school, if it's in a hospital, workplace, it could be anywhere. So we're always seeking opportunities. We're not afraid to send people to school. We send, Brad Beaver's a great example. He goes to OTC to stay current on certifications and professional development every summer. And that's where we're just a little bit different than your general high school or elementary. I mean, for us to stay relevant in the technology world, it's fast moving and it's a constant moving target. Nothing is the same as what it was. Our scan tools, they're $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 and they outdate in 2 years. It's big business in a small school, unfortunately. So we have to stay moving and try to do the best we can. And you have my word that the person that teaches it will have support. My hope is to get this individual in place prior to school being out, if possible. I know timing's going to be really difficult on this. And I want to take them to some career centers to shadow some programs. We're going to steal some curriculum. We're going to do all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm confident in that. We're working on the classroom as we speak. Whether or not this gets off the ground, the classroom was the old TV3 studio years and years and years ago. And it had a black grid on the ceiling and it was really kind of ran down. So it just needs freshened up and we can use that for other purposes if not.
Wow. Thanks, Steve. Exciting.
This is so cool.
So Steve, you want the instructor hired by
I want the instructor hired by May, May is fine. I just want to try, I'm just thinking logistically, my
Okay.
dream would be able to go look. Now, like I said, that comes back to you guys and that comes back to Scott with our individuals on our governing board. They are aware of what our enrollment, what was the last email I sent? Was it 34? 33, 34, so we're up several more kids just since then, so.
And where I'm getting it, like, the Indiana State Police, IMPD, and I think Fort Wayne PD, they keep job boards. With this listed, I know you would get some retirees who cover, these facets, so if we get the information, we can get it out.
Yeah, we just posted our diesel, the diesel job's been posted, Mr. Hensley, I'm gonna say early February, for Mr. Richardson, but we just threw it back out on our Twitter and Facebook again today to get that back out there, so if you see that, share that.
So is that something you could help us get that to
Oh,
those
absolutely,
sites?
yeah.
then? So that'd be
That's
a
great.
good idea, getting the word out, definitely.
That's great. The one thing that, Sonny, what was your impression from Ron Hoke about getting an MOU in place, the agreement, the timing with Vincennes?
Definitely by the end of the school year.
So, that's her sandbox, not mine. If I start messing with dual credits and the MOUs, we're not gonna have an early college, I'll tell you that. So,
Thank you, Sonny.
so yeah, she gets all that credit. I'm good at the things that are pretty thoughtless. Which I guess
This
isn't
isn't
very
thoughtless,
much.
this is a lot of thought. Thank you so much, Steve.
So thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, with that, we move on to public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestion, ideas, or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. We would have those papers, we don't, so we will move on. Superintendent's discussion group reports, principal director reports. Stephanie.
Last week, Maplewood hosted for the third year in a row the Math Bowl. It was great to see. We had a packed house, ran out of chairs, ran out of seating. All the kids were in their school colors. It was great to see them represent for something academic, to see parents come out. I want to thank Mrs. Casaro for stopping by. Kelly was my great MC. Always appreciate that. So it was a great turnout, and the kids were real enthusiastic, and we're looking forward to April. We'll be headed to Rushville.
Thank you. Nobody else? Okay, Director of Human Resources report.
Nothing to mind.
All right, Director of Finance,
I'll pass too, thank you.
Assistant Superintendent.
I'm going to pass to Mr. Collins.
Okay, now Mr. Collins gets to take up all the time left.
Yes, I never pass. So first, I did go meet with legislators at the State House, and that was with the Rural Caucus. So there were about 30. Was able to talk about the issues facing rural schools, especially with poverty, mental well-being, social emotional learning. So I had an audience that listened and asked a lot of good questions, and there were some things that they really learned about what we're facing here with Fayette County Schools. So I was really pleased with the audience and the questions that our legislators asked from both sides of the aisle. So that was a good experience.
Did our legislators attend?
Two of them did, yes. Our
Okay.
senators were both there.
Okay.
So, yeah, and Senator Lysing actually introduced me, and
Oh, great.
so that was, yeah, it was nice. And then Jeff Rotz was there as well.
Okay.
So anyway, I want to share that. I want to congratulate our CHS Today program. They were in a competition. Randy, was that Saturday?
Saturday.
And had a lot of success. I tweeted a picture, I know Randy tweeted some too, but we had some students who did really well in that competition, competing against other kids throughout the state. So kudos to our teacher, Sydney Job, and to our kids there in that program. And I think there's really a lot of good things. When Joe retired, having one of his former students take over, she's just continuing the great tradition with that, and love seeing what the kids are doing. And then I wanted to update just briefly on the coronavirus. That's, as you might imagine, has become a big topic that is consuming our country and our world. But I did send out a letter to our parents, and I copied you on that. And I have talked today to 3 superintendents about just our planning. And the important thing I want our public to know, and our staff and for you, is, you know, this is something we're watching very closely, hour by hour. I mean, we're constantly watching this. Brian has been working with our custodial maintenance staff. We've already upped our cleaning because of the flu season, but he has met with all the building. Just this week, he met with them again, and really just paying extra attention to wiping down those high contact areas, door handles, water fountains. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share with what you shared with them with training and.
Well, so all the products that we use for disinfecting, they're all EPA verified. So these are the same products that hospitals use to clean and disinfect. So like Mr. Collins said, I've touched base with them both via email and in person. I spoke with the building principals as well, just about, I think, teachers need to be cognizant too, and making sure that, they're wiping down areas and making sure the kids are washing their hands and things like that. So we're doing everything that I think that we can possibly do to help prevent any spread of not just the COVID-19, but the flu and everything else. So just again, stepped up the efforts, corporation-wide. So
The flu is a bigger concern, honestly, for us right now in our area. I've been talking with Matt Shirk at the health department daily. We've been communicating, monitoring with the Department of Ed. So I just want our parents to know that we are closely watching this. I think Avon Schools sort of set the bar for how you handle a verified case with what they've done. So, we're hoping that doesn't happen I've talked with Reed, with Craig Kenyon, the CDO, and have been in communication with them about maybe providing some resources to us with some sanitizing products and cleaning products that they're considering. They provide signs for our buildings, just reminding kids, and our health assistants and our teachers, everyone reminding kids to practice those germ prevention strategies. And I ask that of our parents too, to remind your kids to wash. And, cough into your sleeve or cough into a tissue more is better, because you cough into your sleeve, the germs are still there. Wash your hands frequently. Just all those good practices that we need to remind ourselves of. We're being diligent, and I just wanted to stress that. And I appreciate Brian's work with his team and our principals for reinforcing that as well. But, we have spring break coming up, which could be good timing, but we also, have to watch how many people are leaving the country. I don't encourage anyone to go on a cruise right now. I think you do so at your own risk with even making it home in a timely manner. But we're monitoring it closely, and we take it very seriously. So I just wanted you all to know that. And
Scott, I'm glad you mentioned that buses were being disinfected as
Right.
well. I think that's important that people know that.
Yes.
What about our absentee rate from just the general crud? Is that improved?
That's what it is. Yeah, I haven't gotten the update for this week. I asked Cindy to go ahead and give me that. I emailed her right before the board meeting to update this week. I want to keep an eye on it the next 2 weeks. So our attendance rate, we're really watching. When it hits that 20% absentee rate in a building, that's when we really start looking and contact the health department. We haven't been close to that.
Okay.
We've been running about 10%, I would say, as a district. But we do have a lot of the stomach stuff going on right now. Kids sick with the stomach virus, and then also just your regular common flu, type A or type B influenza. So, and a lot of just runny noses and head cold type things too, which Brian's been.
Staffing's been better. We aren't having as many without subs, so that's usually a correlation too.
So we're, knock on wood, we're not doing too bad with the attendance piece for students or staff.
Thank you. For the good of the cause, does anybody have anything they want to share tonight?
Just a reminder, next Monday is the 9th annual Boys and Girls basketball game at the middle school. And we have raised, in the previous year, totally over the previous years, we've raised over $20,000 for the Community Sharing Foundation. It's a whole lot of fun. The kids really get into it. It is completely a free will donation. There's a lot of contests that go on. The staff is into it. I think it's always just a really good community thing, and for the middle school kids to want to give back in this way to the community is just really an awful lot of fun to see. And scorekeeping is always very interesting, and that was in the paper tonight. Thanks, Bob. The scorekeeping is always very interesting. As of right now, we are even. Boys have won as many as the girls have won. I haven't decided who's gonna win this year. I keep score. So, but it's a lot of fun for everyone to participate in, so please come down to the Spartan Bowl. Stuff starts at 4:30, the game starts at 5:30, and it's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Ann.
I do have one thing, National Technical Honor Society next Thursday, the 19th at 7 p.m. in Wise Auditorium. So
Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
where we
Steve.
honor our best and our brightest.
Thank you.
I think the play's this weekend.
Play is
The
this
play is this
weekend.
weekend,
Yes.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I believe.
Yeah, meet me in St. Louis.
Okay, with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Someone else went through.
No, it's your
No,
job.
we want you.
It's your job.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear something? Thank you,
Dennis.
Dennis. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand.
You do that well, Mr. Hunt.
No, it's,